Hello. So it is 9:30 Wednesday Facebook Live Day, and I just finished an interview. Like last week, I talked about interviewing my friend who's originally from the Caribbean, and she moved to New York. So I had another conversation with her today about how to value ourselves with, enough to prevent an emotional meltdown. I think a lot of us have meltdowns, stress attacks, would you call it? Anxiety. Um, hey, Jules, thank you for watching. So today, what I wanted to do is talk about valuing yourself enough, right, to prevent mental breakdowns, and how do you teach your child how to deal with, I'm sure, and anyone who has kids or interacts with kids, or even people in general, your family members, hey Des, we have witnessed many multiple meltdowns, as I have recently, making me wonder whether I can even be a parent coach, because as a parent, and I'm sure all of you can relate to the many mental breakdowns that we have. So today I wanted to start off with, I've been doing this lately. I don't know how many of you guys are into, good morning, Des, into candles, but this just says it's simply spearmint, but I think, and Sabrina just gave me this idea, my eldest, how if we taught our kids how to meditate at a young age, we would have less conflict and less mental breakdowns, because if you're able to go within, practice the breathing exercises, and just learn to be without judging yourself, without allowing all this mental chatter that makes us feel worthless, makes us scared, makes us feel, you name it, any negative emotion. Many times the compilation of that, right, over days and days, sometimes over years and years, can cause us to just lose it. So what I wanted to do is just share a little bit about, it's from my Value Yourself Enough to Prevent an Emotional Breakdown from my Mama's Gotta Let Go book. This is not in the Kindle version. So I just wanted to ask, do you value yourself? Ask your kids that. Do you value yourself? And they might think, what? What do you mean, do I value myself? Do they think that they're important? Do they feel that you make them feel important? Most of all, do they know how to make themselves feel important? Or do they focus, and as a parent, I think we do focus on what we feel we're doing wrong, right? Whenever we lose our temper, whenever we say things that we regret immediately, we, right, focus all day. Oh my gosh, I recently had an argument with Sabrina, and I didn't talk to her for a whole week. And Des helped me a lot with that. And I allowed my negative thinking patterns to just disrupt my life for that whole week, right? I let my pride get in the way. I didn't practice letting go. So my whole little, let me just read this. Our negative thinking patterns often lead to complaining about our lives. This is a hard habit to break. When was the last time you shared your joy instead of your frustrations? And I think a lot of times when you teach children, especially at a young age, I remember before every, before we said goodnight, we would share our favorite part of the day. And then, of course, my youngest, Chelsea, wanted to start sharing her least favorite part of the day. But what I wanted to do is, end the night with something that was really good, right? My favorite part of the day was when we watched a funny show, when we went to Times and I got ice cream. But then you end the day on a lighter note. So ask your child, and even ask yourself, when you get caught up in the drama of problems, ask yourself, is it worth choosing to focus? Hey, Bozu, is it worth focusing on complaining to the point where you are physically and emotionally exhausted? I think a lot of us feel anger, a lot of us feel exhaustion, a lot of us feel just powerlessness, right? Watching everything that's been going on in the news, and even the own battles that everyone is facing at home. But many of us continue to play our negative thoughts on a mental loop. So I'm sharing that this is why, and I believe in brain renovation. Those of you who know me, my passion has always been the brain, how we can rewire it, how we can use it before we lose it. Like we all, my mom's Alzheimer's has really helped me even further my passion, because I see her memory just disappearing, and she calls me her sister. I'm focusing on the good, right? I have her in my life. We are able to feed her mochi. I post my videos of her. We see her smile, and I'm focusing on that. But sometimes my brain goes into the sadness mode. I know that I'm going to lose her anytime soon, and it is hard. So I am practicing acceptance. I'm practicing just observing. So when you have kids go through these meltdowns, I think the three things that we need to ask them, right, is don't hide your feelings. The last thing a child needs to do is be taught to suppress their feelings. I think it's very unhealthy when a father tells his son, suck it up, don't cry, because boys should not cry, right? And my dad felt very uncomfortable watching Sabrina cry when we left on our weekly date nights. Hey, Sandy. So, I just wanted to share a tiny story so I had to value myself, because my dad said, if Sabrina doesn't want to be here and she's crying as you guys leave, I don't want to force her to stay. So I told him I called Parent Line. It's still available now. I think they have different hours because of the whole COVID hours affecting all businesses. And they said, you have to value yourself as a mom and wife, and you and your husband need to go out on your weekly dates. And you need to just train Sabrina to know that, that it's okay. Mom and dad are going to leave. You're going to stay with the grandma and grandpa. And I asked her yesterday, and she said, I remember feeling sad when you left, but I'm sure within minutes she was fine. So I told my dad, who listens to, right, authority figures, Daddy, I called Parent Line, and they said that Thomas and I have to continue on these dates. And he's like, okay, if that's what they said. Thank goodness he trusted the Parent Line experts. But, I needed to learn, even though I felt guilty, and I think a lot of moms, I don't know if a lot of parents out there feel guilty when you do something good for yourself. I had a massage yesterday. I have an IT band injury, and so I felt guilty, though, going to get a massage. And then Sabrina and Chelsea are like, have fun, Mom, hope you have a good, relaxing massage. And as I drove, I realized that I feel a lot of guilt when I do things that pamper myself. But then I thought, today's Facebook Live is all about teaching ourselves as parents and teaching our kids to value themselves. So if they're judged, if they hear criticism, right, from a boss, from a coworker, from friends, this cyberbullying that's been going on, I mean, it's resulted in some people committing suicide, some people battling depression, all because of what other people are saying. So if we teach our children to be resilient no matter what other people are saying, no matter what other people are doing, right? I think it's just so important to rewire our neurons, rewire our brain to get rid of the habits that no longer serve us. Is it hard? Yes. Is it possible? Yes. But it is a commitment. Just like I'm committing to show up every Wednesday at 9:30, no matter how scared I am. You guys, this is like the most scariest thing that I've done. I don't know why. I guess I'm putting myself out there, and I'm facing my vulnerability, and Des has always, she's just my number one cheerleader, telling me to just do it. It doesn't matter if I make mistakes, right? I just want to support you guys. And also, it's very therapeutic sometimes, most of the time, when I share, because I try to follow my own advice. Because sometimes, even though I write it, our brains need to hear it, feel it, see it, and you really need to use your five senses. So this is another exercise to do with your family members. Even though you have adult children, when you guys have family time, conversation time, instead of complaining about what's going wrong with America, with the world, talk about how, as a family, you folks can uplift each other and really hear. Like, if you are upset, Don't resist it. Talk about not only why you're upset, but talk about how you can transform it. So first, observe, oh my gosh, I'm so pissed off. Second, accept it. Yes, we are upset with all the social injustice that's going on. We're upset. Many of us are upset with what our government leaders, right? How the decisions that they're making. And then transform it, meaning once you really explain it, what does it feel like? I've been doing these exercises with my students. What color is it? Oh my gosh, it's like an angry dark red. What does it sound like? Maybe like a piercing fire engine or ambulance, right? Just a really annoying, really loud sound. What would it smell like? Maybe, I don't know, burnt, like sometimes if you put the popcorn in the microwave, which Chelsea has done, and it's just like black burnt popcorn. The main thing is it's not a pleasant odor. And then you know how it like goes all over your house, and you have to, even though you open the windows, you put the fans on, it doesn't escape. Well, maybe that's how anger is. So it's a very unpleasant, stinky odor. It's a very loud sound. And what would it taste like? Probably nothing pleasant. So talk about it. Is it like, probably to Thomas, it's like the most unpleasant, healthy kale smoothie. But you really talk about it, and before you know it, you're not really feeling that anger because you are describing it. Once you describe it and you transform it into something outside of you, you're going to see it dissipate slowly. So continuing on, you are in charge of how much space your thoughts take up in your brain, right? If you want to spend 90% of the space in your brain on anger, resentment, and negativity, then that's what your cells are going to practice, or that's what it's going to feel. So even though you're feeding yourself healthy food, if your thoughts are negative, you are lowering your immune system. And we can teach our kids that. It's not just the food that you put in your mouth, it's also the thoughts that you choose. And yes, some kids think, but I can't help thinking that way. But if they're taught that we choose our thoughts, it's a life-changing moment when you realize, do you need to believe every thought that enters your mind? Do you need to even give it space? You can just acknowledge it and say, yeah, anger is there, resentment is there, but do you want to give it attention? And this is where Chelsea is even teaching me, it's like, you know what, Mom, I don't think I'm going to go there, but I'm upset, but I know it's just temporary. And that's what this whole thing is, right? Feel anger, feel sadness, feel whatever it is that's negative, but know that it's temporary and know how to process it, not to hide it. I think someone just said that. Don't hide the pain, but just feel it, process it, and then let it go. It's not an easy journey since you have carried these negative messages and these thoughts around, a lot of us, for decades, right? If I asked you, what horrible thing happened in kindergarten, or what horrible thing happened in high school, you probably remember it, right? And sometimes that it's almost like a PTSD where you remember that teacher or principal scolding you, and you never forget it. But the thing is, you don't have to forget it. You can live with it, but also just remember that it's not part of you. You don't have to define yourself with it. So replace negative thoughts as they pop up by changing your perception. So this is something that I've practiced and learned, and actually devoted a message card that's only in the printed version, but I'll read it. For example, when your children refuse to cooperate, and I think, hey, Fran, I think all of us have experienced children or coworkers or spouses when they refuse to cooperate, or they refuse to even, listen to you. You could see it as a sign, this is from a perspective of your defiant child, that they are practicing, right, being decisive. They stand their ground, and they're full of conviction in their reasoning behind their obstinance. So it could be a positive trait, right? Because you don't like them rebelling against you, but when you think about it, that is a positive trait, right? That being decisive, just really believing in your belief system, even though a lot of times as teenagers, we don't agree with their belief system, but it's just changing your perception so that you're not so full of anger. And then you feel, well, I felt like a personal failure that I couldn't get Chelsea to do her work or Chelsea to show me respect, which is a whole different issue. And then you realize teenagers, the way their hormones are on an emotional roller coaster, they don't even know sometimes that they are being disrespectful. Lately, you guys, Chelsea's been actually telling me, wow, mom, I didn't realize how disrespectful I was. Then she feels guilty, and I just tell her, I mean, all of us have been there. All of us have been disrespectful towards our parents and even towards our loved ones. So these are traits, though, right? Being decisive, being really, full of conviction with your belief system is a positive trait. Those are traits of being an effective leader. So whenever your kids mouth off at you, instead of like reaching for the slipper if you have little ones and you are taught like you need to discipline by physical punishment, you need to discipline by you name it. Sometimes what I've learned recently when Chelsea has her little meltdowns is just to listen. And that's all you need to do. You don't even have to do, sometimes I forget and I do my little mom lecture and then she just looks at me and I remind myself, okay. And sometimes I ask her, what do you need from me? You know what she says? I just need you to listen, mom. I don't need your advice. I don't need your lectures. I don't need you to tell me that, but just listen. And so I listen and it avoids tons of arguments. So take time to ask yourself sometime today, or value what bothers you enough to, exhaust yourself emotionally. A lot of times it's not worth it. And as many of us have learned, years and years of resentment, years and years of anger, or years and years of holding in anything negative, it does not do justice to our body. I mean, our bodies start breaking down, which is why a lot of people I know are on medications for whatever ailment, but it is possible to reduce stress, and it's all in our hands. It's truly, truly in our, right, we have the power. So my little parenting tip today is that as a parent, you hold the power to actually teach your child how to handle, anger, how to handle emotional meltdown. So as they're having an emotional meltdown, this was my mistake. You know what? Things could be so much worse. And then I give the worst scenario. And then I've been told by both children that I either turn everything into a life lesson or I just minimize what they're going through. And yes, definitely we need to pay attention. When we feel stress, do what it takes to minimize it and teach our children. Exactly. Because if we don't teach our children, guess what? The unhealthy, lack of coping mechanisms will continue, and we will pass it on from generation to generation, which is why when I realized that Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech was 57 years ago, it makes you think, can you imagine what he's saying, what he's thinking while he's in heaven, looking at us doing the exact same thing that he was trying so hard to peacefully protest, and how, the discrimination and the injustices are still continuing. How do we teach this to our children? I was talking to my friend from the Caribbean who actually shared, I'm going to post our audio interview. She didn't want to be seen visually, so I did a 20-minute audio interview that I will post on my YouTube channel. So please subscribe. It's Letting Go with Aloha on YouTube, and it's important that we teach our children either through stories, and there's a lot of children's stories, right? And it could be as simple as the ugly duckling. The main thing is like what to do, or how do we cope when we're not accepted? How do we cope when we feel inferior? How do we cope when we don't feel like normal or not competent? Right? As a parent, there are many times that I feel majorly incompetent. And so my mission, for those who are willing to watch or, help me on this journey is to teach parents the importance of all these little lessons. So I've decided on future Facebook Lives, I'm just going to share little snippets of my book. And I do have these let go by messages for those of you who haven't read it. And some of them is just like I'll just show you. I'll end with this. There's my little Shaka Girl logo that Sabrina created. And I wrote, my daughter Sabrina drew this girl relaxing and showing the hang loose or Shaka sign. I asked her to create a logo. Little did I know that she drew a symbol of letting go. This hang loose girl symbolizes the need to release worries. So this is what we have to teach our keiki, right? Release worries. Don't hide it. Don't resist it, but just feel the worries, but not become the worries, right? Because we don't need to define it. We can acknowledge it. We can share our story. Deslin is so good at helping people share their stories and helping people deal with grief, deal with a lot of like people have suffered abuse or suffered in general. And how do we transform that and build resilience from it instead of letting it take over our lives where it paralyzes us or it causes us to fall into a deep depression. I've gone through several depressions where some of my Facebook friends ask, are you okay? You've been off Facebook for like a year and a half now. And after 2 years, I just slowly got back on, and I'm probably on it a bit too much. But I think it's, refraining from taking anything too seriously and knowing that our feelings and our obstacles are like the weather, right? It changes all the time. So just know, take time to light your candle and know that we can you see that? We can extinguish it. When you think about it, we don't have to be the flame, or you can be the flame for a little while, but then blow it out, deep breathe, share it, talk about it, and then let it go. And that's my message for today. So let's just spread that letting go, just that philosophy that I think will change not only our loved ones, but our mental state too. Because who is tired of feeling stressed? Who is tired of feeling just this hopelessness sometimes, right? That you just feel like, can you even make a difference? And I think every one of us can make a difference just within ourselves. I finally realized I don't have to change the world. I can just change myself and know that what I'm doing is therapeutic for me. But maybe, if any of you folks gained anything from this, I'd love to hear your feedback. Post it on the comments on any of the many things that I talk about. And I'm trying hard to just stick on a topic. But as you know, my brain goes from here to there to here. So I will end here and just know to blow out that flame of anger, of resentment. Feel it, right? Don't define yourself and just let it go. And if we teach our kids that, we might have less conflict, right? Less mental health issues and more positivity. So enjoy your Wednesday, and I will be back next Wednesday if I don't allow the fear to get to me. But I know Des will make sure that I show up. And thank you. Thank you, Des. You said thank you for sharing. Well, thank you for listening, and thank you for your time and your support. And I will say bye. See you next week. And make sure to let go. Practice letting go of anything negative today. Okay? Bye.